Well, welcome everybody to our Just Asking podcast. And I'm joined today by Debbie Ferris, who is also on our board. And we're just going to talk very briefly, just a short Just Asking podcast on the movie Sound of Freedom that everybody is talking about. And if you're not talking about it, you should be talking about it. And if you haven't seen it, you should have seen it. And if you haven't seen it, you call us or email us and I'll give you a free ticket to the movie. So it's called Sound of Freedom. It's obviously all on sex trafficking, and we're just going to talk about it. So
yeah.
Debbie.
So I want, one of the questions that I've had asked to me
First
a
of
lot
all, did you see it?
I saw it
Okay,
twice. I saw it twice. I saw it on 4th of July and then to support it a couple of weeks later. And there's a whole marketing necessity of why they did it that way. But it's a great story. First of all, the movie was produced 6 years ago. It was actually filmed, written about 8 years ago and produced 6 years ago, and it sat on shelves. It could not get out. So a lot of questions ask, well, it's about sex trafficking. That's a very difficult, and child, that's a very difficult subject. What will I see? And I want the audience to know, Sue, that the movie is done so artistically, professionally well, so delicately, the way they handle that subject, that you could take a 14-year-old girl and she would get out what she needs to get out of it, and it would not be traumatic, but she would learn something. So the way they handle the subject matter was really well done.
Yes, I agree.
And they did it because the children that were acting, they were protecting their innocence.
Yes.
In this. So there's a lot of thoughtfulness that went into the movie, and very beautiful as well. I loved how they transposed the English and Spanish so that it would be appropriate for a Hispanic audience.
Yes, very well, yes.
Because unfortunately, Latin America is the provider, and the United States is the consumer.
We're the number one consumer. Think about this. I want our audience to understand this. Not only Mexico is the number one provider for sex trafficking, child trafficking, but United States of America. Think about that. This is absolutely appalling. That where God put His providential hand on this country, and we were founded on Judeo-Christian principles. We have slipped and gone down so far that we are now the number one consumer. Are you hearing this? The number one consumer in sex trafficking. That's porn, that's all that stuff. It all starts with all that. It is absolutely despicable and disgraceful. And it's just, I don't even know the word. Those aren't even words that, it's even 10 times worse than that. How anybody could do that. And we really, you know what? I really believe, Debbie, it's because when you take God and prayer out of a school, 1962 and 63, I talk about this all the time. When you take out prayer and Bible out of the school, all of a sudden the heart goes and we're, it's deceitful, it's wicked. Our heart is wicked and deceitful unless we have God. And yet Satan has come in and infiltrated in. He is such a deceiver, and he has come to kill, crush, and destroy, and he does, and steal and destroy, and he does that. But because we've allowed it, because we've chosen, the Christians have not stood up to the plate to really fight for what is right and true and noble and just. Because you have to go back to why are we in this mess? And it's because we've taken God out. The pastors are not preaching the whole counsel of God. They're going into the progressive nonsense of, it's okay because we want to love everybody. Yes, God loves everybody, but he says to get out of the muck and the mire. And we don't stay in the muck and the mire. And if you're a church and you're a pastor and you are thinking that it's okay to let somebody stay in a lifestyle of homosexuality or all this other stuff, then you're going to be held accountable to God. But you're allowing all this. Now there's perversion, and just go look at the Bible.
The innocence
of
Oh my gosh,
children. The innocence. Oh.
So it is appalling.
Yeah.
It's truly appalling, but it's a subject matter
we must
that
talk about.
has to be enter the mainstream conversation because it is so prevalent.
Yes, it is.
It is $150 billion industry worldwide.
Number
one
industry. Consumer, United States.
And
Can you imagine?
Yes. And the worst of it all is that, it's surpassing the drug trade because, as they explain, you sell one bag of cocaine for $100 and that's it.
You got to sell it again. Or you got to go buy out there and buy it again.
They are selling these children sometimes 10 times a day.
Yeah.
So well, anyways, it is a very tough subject. But the big question, the question I'm asking, is why has the mainstream not promoted this movie? Why is it that they're actually calling it a
That's a great question,
QAnon
Deb.
conspiracy? And they're just they don't attack the movie itself because it's so well done, but they're attacking whatever they can, and they're calling it
Yeah.
conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
When this is a very, very documented
Well, and it's
situation.
based on facts, you know, with
Yes.
Tim Ballard, who actually did. One man, think about this, one man.
He's a hero.
He really is. He's beyond. This man. This is. If you want to put anybody on a pedestal, which we don't put men on pedestal. This man is unbelievable. He left his family, but it's his wife.
It's his wife.
It's his wife. One woman is his wife. Was the wind beneath his wings, and she encouraged him. And they had, I think, 4 children.
No, they had more.
They had
like-
more. You're right. I'm
yes.
sorry. Yeah, you're right. I forget how many they have, but they have a lot
6.
of children. So, but she was the wind beneath his wings to encourage him to go over, even when the government wouldn't said, no, we're not going to do this. He was willing to, you know,
He was going to actually
his job.
Actually, having left his job, he was
Yeah.
that much close to receiving full pension.
Yes,
And
yes.
he walked away from that because she told him, "Don't you compromise my eternity."
Yeah.
So
See,
she
now,
was,
listen to
and
that.
that part was not in the movie. I know a lot of it because
Yeah.
I've been following. You know, again, this movie tried to get out 2 or 3 years ago, and it was roadblock after roadblock.
But you know what? Who was it roadblocked by?
Disney,
Oh, isn't that interesting? And who
Yes.
else?
um,
Netflix?
Netflix,
Hmm.
and
Amazon?
yes, all the
Hmm.
big distributors.
I wonder
And
why.
even the story of how it got out is amazing because they were really facing at this point no distribution. There was no real way, and it was a movie that when it was done, they did spend about 15 million to do it, so they needed to recover that investment. And they were thinking, well, we're just gonna have to put it on
YouTube or whatever to be for free.
because
But
the message was so important. And through a series of God incidences, they met the CEO of Angel Studios, and it's a great story of layering on how this happened. But in a matter of months, I want to say at the beginning of this year, like in March, they signed the contract, and then they thought they were going to release it in September because they didn't want to compete against the summer blockbusters. And the CEO,
like
Mission
Impossible and
Barbie.
Barbie and Indiana Jones.
and they didn't have the marketing
Yeah.
budget. Angel Studios is a rather small. I think they did The Chosen, but it was a small, so they the CEO or the leadership of Angel Studios had this feeling and said it has to go out on 4th of July, and everybody
It's
was
about independence. You're
it's
free.
freedom.
It's about freedom.
and so
Sound of Freedom.
Sound of Freedom, and they were like, we don't have the budget to compete, and they came up with a brilliant marketing strategy, and it's we the people that have pushed this movie up. Now it's in theaters. They had to make it big on 4th of July, then they had to make it big on the next weekends so that the theaters could see that there was relevance to the movie, and now having accomplished all of that,
Over $100+ million.
Yes.
Think about that. Just in a handful of, they surpassed. Now I saw it. Now I love to see movies like this on the very first day that it comes out because that's very, very important.
it's
on the
important
metrics,
for
right?
from their metrics, correct?
And but I happened to be in North Carolina at the time, and I looked to see where it was playing, and I went, oh, and I thought, oh, 4th of July. I wonder if it's going to be not going to be good. Maybe I'll go. They had it on the 3rd, so I got to see it on the 3rd, and it was packed. It was in Hendersonville. It was at Epic Theater, and it was packed, and so I was like, oh, this is awesome. Well, that goes to the point that it was packed on the 3rd, packed on the 4th, packed on a couple, then all of a sudden, because it beat, now the day I went there,
It
right
beat
across
Indiana Jones.
Indiana Jones was across the theater, I mean, it was across the hallway, and it beat Indiana Jones on the outcoming, so that was like, whoa. Then all of a sudden, right now, it's almost, I just read today that it was almost, I think it's almost either almost surpassed it or has surpassed Mission Impossible. Now that's a big deal.
It's a
And Barbie
huge
and
deal.
everything else. So, but get
Because it's we, the people, got involved, and we made this happen.
Exactly.
Truly, we made this happen. We voted with our dollars.
Well, that's it. And then not only that, but then then Satan comes in, the deviousness of it. All of a sudden, people were going, well, wait a minute. I had said that it wasn't, it was sold out, so I didn't go. Next thing you know, there was a theater there was 4 people in the theater. And next
And it
thing you
was
know, the
sold
air
out.
conditioning, it was sold out. The air conditioning was not working. They were waiting. Well, no, it just happens to be this theater that the air conditioning went out, and we have to wait for it to restart the movie again. They tried every which way but Sunday, and they're still trying to do that every which way
Well,
but
the
Sunday.
interesting thing now, and I think I would encourage the audience, Sue, is again, you've heard us, we've seen the movie, we know what it's all about.
And
It
very
is
well done, by the way.
very
Debbie
well
said,
done.
it's very tastefully done. So
tasteful,
yeah.
artistic, the music that they use, everything.
Everything,
So
yes.
it's a great movie. And yet, they're maligning it. Take note of who is maligning it, because I think
Mhm.
that's a litmus test. That's like a
Yes.
clear, you know what, you're on the wrong side. And then why are you on the wrong side?
Yes.
I wonder.
Yeah.
Why
Why is the media not talking about this? From Fox, I mean, it doesn't matter what station. None of them are talking about it. So why? Why do you think that?
I don't know. Biggest consumer of this type of information and this type of
Mhm.
content in the
Mhm.
U.S.
Why?
Maybe they're participants.
You think?
I don't know.
So
Just
if
asking.
you are smashing something that is these are children now, okay? If you're 18 and older, and I don't even want to get into that because, any type of sex trafficking is
Is
horrible.
bad.
And you know what? I'm just going to, talk about the elephant in the room. It all starts with, first of all, you take God out of it. That you take God out of everything. Next thing you know, the devil comes in. Now you're talking about pornography. Well, pornography is complicit in all of this because it's a thread. It's all part of it. Then you want something more and more and more. You get desensitized. And I mean, the pastors we've had on a lot of our conferences, well, one conference in particular, we had, I can't think of the group right now, but we had Exodus Cry. They were on sex trafficking, and it was Morgan Perry. She was an incredible gal. That they start talking about how it's just infiltrated the pastors, it's infiltrated the Christian community, and then I'm just going to say one thing. It's a little off topic, but it's part of it. That when there is a youth pastors conference, I want you to hear this. When there is a youth pastor conference, it is in that hotel. It is the highest in watching pornography. Now, that's now here you're supposed to be at church, but we can't assume just because you're a Christian or you're church or you're a pastor that this isn't, and this is not pointing the finger at anybody because sin is sin, but we have to help people get out of that. But what's amazing is that leads to other things, and then you become desensitized. And I remember having a gentleman, this group, at one of our chapter meetings, because here in Florida, we usually have the first Tuesday of the month, we always have a chapter meeting, and bringing people in to speak. We had this group, I think it was called the Phantom Group, I forget now, but they, I was asking them, I said, I'm trying to even comprehend anything like this. He goes, so you'll never be able to understand any of this because their mind is so evil, it's so demonic that you know what they're like? They don't care about this. It's like when you're walking on the sidewalk. This is what he said to me. He goes, when you're walking on the sidewalk and you accidentally, you're walking on the sidewalk and there's a little ant. We've stepped on ants, right? I mean, we don't think of it. It's a big deal. That's how they portray little children, little people, just the sex trafficking, because they do it over and over and over again and 10 times a day sometimes, that it's not like that. It's like stepping on an ant. They have no conscience. It's just awful. And so here you're talking little children. And so it begs the question, like you just said, why is it that these people, why isn't the Senate? Now I know that this week they were supposed to, or this last week or so, they were supposed to show a screening up in the Capitol, up in the legislature.
Yes.
Now we will see, right? You will know people by their fruit. Now we will see who's going to start talking about this. And if the media's not talking about it, and they're maligning this movie, They're like you said, calling them QAnon, all this stupid stuff, this conspiratorial stuff. But yet it's happening. It's a factual
It's a
documentary, but you're smashing it. This is on little children. Children are not for sale. This is your little, this is 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, even younger than that. This is sick. This is evil, is beyond evil. If they're not talking about it, if they're not all of a sudden starting talking about it, concerned
then
about
why?
we ask the question, why?
Why?
What is the issue?
It's an industry, and I'm sure it's tied
It's
into
follow
drugs.
the money.
Follow the money. Yes.
Right. Follow the money. So we're just, this is just amazing that we're just here asking questions, why? But go see the movie Sound of Freedom, and we're just doing a huge plug for this, and see it again and again, or so.
Pay it forward.
Yeah,
You
pay
can
it
do
forward. Please pay it forward that you will go see this movie, Sound of Freedom. It's still in, theaters, and we just have to make it $200 million because
We need every American to watch this.
absolutely, and God's children are not for sale. And we at Women Impacting the Nation, which includes women impacting the nation, we are all in for this. We will promote this till the cows come home. And because when we show up, we win. So thanks for joining me today, Debbie. And just join us at womenimpactingthenation.org. Go and like and share this podcast, and go see Sound of Freedom. And when we show up, we win. But we'll see you on the next Just Asking, and have an awesome day.